There we go. So I'm here to speak to you today around VMware SASE, which is a term that Gartner coined, and it stands for Your Secure Access Services Edge. Now, before I dive into that, allow me to get a little nostalgic for a moment, and let's look at the old days. So in the old days, you had all your networking routing through one data center, and it made sense, right? Because that's where all your business applications lived. But now we're moving into a very highly distributed world. But before I get there, let's talk about that. So you've got all your business applications sitting inside one data center. Made 100% sense. And what you would do is initially you would probably have a little bit of unreliable connectivity, right? And that's where MPLS came in, private lines. Really expensive, but it gave you that comfort that you were getting reliable connectivity to your workloads, to your business applications. And then what would you do after that? You would put down a second line. Why? Because you needed that redundancy. You couldn't have a single point of failure in your network, because when that went down, a particular branch or an office would stop operating, which would lead to huge costs. And that would how you would justify that expensive cost of the MPLS lines, the dual MPLS lines going in. Now that second MPLS line sits there and does absolutely nothing, but wait for the primary to fail and cost you money at the same time. So now why not use it? And that's where SD-WAN came in. But before I get into that, a little bit later on came the rise of cloud computing. Cloud providers would come to organizations and promise you this path to no operations. Focus on your core business, move your workloads into the cloud, don't have to maintain infrastructure, we'll do all of that for you. Sounded simple, sounded easy. As we all know, it's not as simple and it's not as easy as what all the cloud providers had promised, right? But it's getting there. Fast forward a little bit more, SD-WAN. SD-WAN then gave you that ability to optimize your bandwidth, to be able to augment bandwidth with less expensive broadband internet fiber going into your branches, and then that started making a lot of sense. Moving out to today, SD-WAN has evolved. And it's evolved into a platform that Gartner has called the Secure Access Services Edge, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today, SASE. But if you're calling it VMware SASE, I'd prefer you call it VMware Sexy. Sounds much better. So the workforce today is highly distributed. A worker's location can change daily, even hourly. You can be working on a train, you can be working in an airport, in a coffee shop, in a hotel. Like all of you guys today, you're working out of a hotel. I mean, you weren't working where you were yesterday. And infrastructure is now spread across various locations. You've got your cloud locations, you've got your near edge and your far edge. Now your near edge is something that then sits between your data center and your cloud provider. Includes things like points of presence, private 5G networks, etc. And then you have your distributed workforce that I spoke about, and in between all of that, you have your distributed applications. Now, the distributed applications brought a lot of complexity, but it also brought you a lot of business benefits, right? Which is how you justified getting this vast distributed application landscape in your environment. Now, this is really chaotic, right? How do you bring order to this chaos? So if you have a look at this picture, this is typically how you would connect in the old days to fetch an application, or probably today as well. Users would go into a data center would run its services up and down, networking, routing, switching, security, etc. Go to the cloud or SaaS or IaaS providers, fetch that application, and deliver that back to the users. Now you look at this and you say to me, but Michael, I don't really see a problem. Believe it or not, this is a problem in today's world. This is extremely complex. There's a lot of latency. It's high costing operationally. It's complex, and it lacks a lot of agility. So I'm going to go over to the next slide. And when I get back, you'll actually see why that old approach was the problem. That was a data center-centric approach. Today, we're looking at a user-centric approach, which takes all those traditional services that you would run in your data center, move that out into a distributed, cloud-delivered point of presence. So now, your users would connect there, get authenticated, and it would go and fetch the SaaS or IaaS application or workloads and deliver that back to users in a secure manner. With our SD-WAN technology, we optimize that traffic for you. Now, allow me just to pause on this picture for a little bit. If you have a look at the SD-WAN that's part of the SASE, offering from VMware, what SD-WAN does is, firstly, it optimizes your bandwidth. How do we do that? You have 2 lines coming into a lot of your branches, right? Like I mentioned earlier, 2 MPLS lines. Second one sits and does absolutely nothing but wait for the primary to fail. You're paying for it. Why not use it at the same time? 1, SD-WAN gives you that ability. 2, SD-WAN gives you that ability to augment that bandwidth coming into your offices with broadband internet fiber. That's a lot more cost effective. Over time, you can actually start canceling some of these MPLS lines, and you can just run broadband internet fiber. Why? Because with SD-WAN, it's irrelevant what that underlay transport is, whether it be MPLS, broadband internet fiber, LTE, 3G, 5G, you name it, it's irrelevant. We will build those tunnels across the underlay medium, and we optimize that traffic for you. Our SD-WAN is also voted #1 4 years in a row now on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Now, how are we the leaders for 4 years in a row? There's a piece of technology that is unique to us as VMware, and it's called Dynamic Multipath Optimization, or DMPO. So what DMPO actually does is, remember I told you about the 2 lines earlier? But let's take a step back. Other SD-WAN providers, at the point of initiating that application, will look between the 2 lines and go, okay, line 1, best line to send this traffic. Send the traffic down this line. But now what if there's any issues on that line? Jitter, brownout, etc. They'll continue to send that traffic down that line because they use probe-based technology to determine if the line is healthy or not. So you can imagine if you've got a 5–10% packet loss, majority of those probes are still going to go through because it's done once every 500 milliseconds or so. So it's going to continue sending that traffic down, and the result is the users are going to have poor application experience. So what DMPO from VMware does is we use every single packet that we send out as a measurement tool. And when a packet doesn't reach the other side, we know about it immediately, and we start correcting it. So what we first do is a bit of forward error correction, duplicate the packets. If that doesn't work, we immediately start switching the packets on a per packet basis to the next line to ensure that you get that optimal user experience on the application. And that is, a very high-level overview of what we deliver from an SD-WAN perspective. Also, with the SD-WAN from VMware, is you get to use our gateways, which we have thousands of these gateways located globally, and it's situated within 5 milliseconds to your major SaaS or IaaS providers. And then on top of all of that, we have edge network intelligence that does machine learning and AI to help you improve the performance, but it also does contributes to a self-healing network. Now, the result of VMware SASE is you have your improved application performance, simplifying your operations, which in turn lowers your operational cost or lowers OpEx, and it's cloud first. It's built from the ground up in the cloud, which means we have massive scale, and it's really, really simple to run. So SASE delivers these key business outcomes. So firstly, we reduce your total cost of ownership. You may have a lot of disparate systems running in your organization. You might have a different vendor that provides you your SD-WAN, different vendor that provides you your VPN, different security providers, and that results in limited visibility. It's extremely complex to manage, and the list can go on. Let's look at the next business outcome. We support a distributed architecture, and it's not just apps in the data center or apps in the cloud. It's apps serving users anywhere, and the apps can live everywhere, whether it be in the cloud, in the hyperscaler, a hosted data center, you name it, it becomes irrelevant where that actually lives. We transform your infrastructure. So we support all current and future transport links. So traditional MPLS lines, broadband internet fiber, LTE, 4G, 5G. It's irrelevant. We will build the overlay over any transport medium that you have. Next, we transform your security. So it's a shift from managing boxes and managing single firewall policies to managing and delivering a consistent security policy that's user-aware, context-aware, to improve the user experience, as well as securing that at the same time. We accelerate application modernization. So in this highly distributed world, in this highly complicated, complex world, your applications are striped everywhere. Data center, cloud provider, near edge, far edge. We bring order to this chaos for you, and we help you accelerate that application modernization, because without that, it does become a stumbling block to modernizing a lot of the applications. And then finally, we enable new business, digital business scenarios. So think of a merger and acquisition, for example. You're bringing together two disparate networks. In the past, it would take you forever to do it. With VMware, or with our SASE offering, it becomes a lot simpler, and it becomes the glue that then brings that all together. So, VMware SASE. What is it that we offer in our SASE offering? So, in the SASE POPs today, we have our SD-WAN gateway, because SD-WAN is a key component, as outlined by Gartner, to the Secure Access Services Edge. Within the security, or within the SASE POPs, we have things like Secure Access that delivers on zero trust. We have Cloud Web Security that has built into it things like CASB, or your Cloud Access Security Brokers. It's got data loss prevention, etc. There's a lot, and I don't really have much time to go through all of that today, so I'd really like to engage with you on a much deeper level to do a lot deeper dives into this. And finally, why VMware SASE? So firstly, we feel proven, right? With tens of thousands of customers that we've got out there running our platform, you can imagine the global presence that we have. It's extremely field-proven at the moment, and there's a lot of, call it good write-ups around our technology. Next, we combine the single-pass architecture with the leader in SD-WAN, our SD-WAN offering, VeloCloud. And offering that optimized performance with dynamic multipath optimization, like I mentioned earlier, being able to, or having that ability to switch packets on the fly and on a sub-second basis so that nobody suffers from poor application experience. There's also deep application recognition, and we also continuously monitor and dynamically steer the packets. We have an integrated management platform that then simplifies your operations and policy management. And with Cloud Web Security and Secure Access, we deliver on zero trust. And to come, we've also got firewall as a service that is coming into these into these SASE POPs. Now, if you heard what Gartner said in the last year, they're talking about compute also coming to these SASE POPs. Who's the leader in virtualized compute today? I don't want to brag, but it's VMware. So you can imagine as the SASE POPs start building out and getting more complicated, you'd want to partner with the leader in all of those spaces already. And then finally, we have an open extensible platform for seamless migration, and we've added into these SASE POPs over time, Cloud Web Security, Secure Access, firewall as a service is a future, and compute is a future requirement that would be coming. Now, why would compute actually sit in these SASE POPs? A very easy example I can give you is, think of a self-driving car. It doesn't matter how I optimize that bandwidth for you. If your data center, if you're driving an Audi, for example, and that data center sits in Germany, it doesn't matter how that traffic gets optimized, latency is distance related, right? So by bringing compute into the SASE POPs, you're actually shortening that distance from where you actually need that compute to work. And in the future, it's going to be highly dependent on the edge or the distributed POPs. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time today.